You're listening to the Unwritable Rant podcast with your host and bourbon-soaked storyteller, Juliette Miranda.
Well, hey there, y'all. It's Juliette Miranda. Welcome to episode 122 of the Unwritable Rant podcast. I have two stories to share with y'all today about bandaging a butt and the ringleader of romance. But first, we need some bourbon, so fill up those glasses, y'all. Cheers. I'm doing things a little differently today. I'm drinking Larceny bourbon, which y'all know is my go-to, but I want to tell you about Gifted Horse from the Orphan Barrel collection. I had the opportunity to drink it at our favorite Chicago speakeasy earlier in the month. Normally, I prefer to be drinking my whiskey with you as I talk about it, but, well, the Gifted Horse bourbon was so monumentally awful that I actually sat there in a bar and took notes just so I could tell you about it right now. Gifted Horse is a blended bourbon. It consists of a 4-year bourbon, a 17-year-old bourbon, and a 4-year corn whiskey. I tried drinking it straight and on the rocks, and I will tell you that nothing helped this bourbon. It is woody and drying. Now, there's a little bit of cherry sweetness in there too, but it's not enough to make this bourbon anything you're going to want to drink. Quite honestly, I could probably take the 4 or 5 mostly empty bottles of bourbon I have in my bar, slosh them all together, and have better results than Gifted Horse. Now again, I feel the need to stress that this is just my taste. If you have Gifted Horse and you enjoy it, good for you. Me personally, well, I'm glad I've got a glass of Larceny in my hands right now. I'm drinking today to numb my pain, y'all. It's the pain of having gone through an entire box of bandages, 1 hobo finger splint, and a massage therapist in the course of 2 weeks. As well, I'm drinking away the pain of knowing that I am completely incapable of acting like a decent adult. Because this entire series of events that I'm about to tell you about were astoundingly idiotic and completely preventable. I like to call these defending your life moments. And if you've ever seen the Albert Brooks movie of the same name, you'll know what I mean. They're the moments where, if your life were to be replayed and evaluated, your absolute lack of sound judgment in certain circumstances would overshadow any good you may have otherwise done. So this whole trail of misery started on the eve of New Year's Eve. My guy and I had spent the night in downtown Chicago, drinking our way through all of our favorite city bars. It was a long, long day and night that concluded in the ballroom of our favorite hotel. And I'll be honest, y'all, the remainder of our night is clouded. Clouded by the fog of having ingested a good 12 hours worth of booze. But here's what I do recall. Sitting down in the stunning old Chicago ballroom, listening to a tremendous soul band, and then insisting our waiter bring us a plate of French fries smothered in gravy along with a bottle of champagne. Because I'm a classy kind of gal, obviously. I also remember that I announced, I hurt my finger. It was just a casual, random observation at the time. But fast forward 2 days later, and you will find me sitting on my couch and staring at my right index finger. The tip of it is a swollen mess. Now I can bend it, sort of, but typing causes a chorus of pain so intense I'm tempted to try typing with my feet. For all of the grief it was causing, you would think that I had gotten my finger caught between the teeth of a cannibalistic hobo. At the very least, maybe I got it stuck in a revolving door. But the thing is, I didn't know. And do you know what bothered me most about the situation? It wasn't my lack of memory. It was the thought of needing to actually have my finger treated. I am something of a toddler when it comes to injuries. And as I've mentioned in the past, I have zero trust or faith in my shitty local clinic. So I did what any rational, conscientious human being would do. I sawed a nail file in half, taped that sucker to my finger, and then I carried on with my day. All hail hillbilly medicine! And I'll tell you, that hobo splint worked great. At least until the next morning when I took a shower. Now, logic would dictate that I take this mach splint off before I get in the shower. Stupidity, however, seems to have a chokehold on my brain. So I just hopped right into the water and started soaping up. And washing my hair was admittedly a bit of a challenge, but it wasn't until I grabbed my razor that things really got messy. You see, I developed a very firm preference for men's razors when I got sick of trying to shave through protective grates and gooey cushioning. What is it with women's razors? I mean, the pink handles and the pictures of the moon goddess are nice and all that, but come on. I'll forgo all of those girly trimmings in favor of rows upon rows of exposed blades with names like Mach Turbo Skin Raising Force. And this is why I am always silky smooth. But that kind of razor power is deadly when attempted with just 4 good fingers and a splint. I still don't really know exactly what happened. I was grappling with the razor in my lame hand, trying to drag it up and down my leg, and somehow I twisted and I leaned, and I managed to slice a 4-bladed razor right across the supple skin of my ass. And suddenly, there is more carnage in my shower than in Ed Gein's living room. It was like one of those as seen on TV commercials, where a spokesperson is demonstrating how their product will solve all of those challenges of daily living. I have watched countless scenarios where frustrated people can't crack an egg or figure out how to clip their nails. And I felt secure, knowing that I was way too smart to ever be in the before picture. Of course, that was before I became the moron with a gaping ass wound. Once again, my guy had to ingest his laughter when I came to him, this time dripping and bleeding and pleading for help in dressing a wound there was no way I would ever be able to hide. There are a lot of people in the world who will wax on about wanting intimacy in their relationships. To them, intimacy is snuggle time and cooing little words of endearment after boxed wine and a romantic comedy. But here, for me at the Rant Ranch, intimacy is letting my guy apply antibiotic gel to my self-inflicted ass gash. And let me ask you this, have you ever tried to bandage your butt? I don't recommend it. My slash, which was a good 2 or 3 inches long, was situated right near the curve between my ass and thigh, which made keeping the 2 bandages we'd stuck to me in place kind of an awkward affair. To my guy's credit, his mocking was minimal. In fact, he felt so sorry for me and my broken condition that he booked a massage for me at my favorite spa. And I'm thinking, yes, this is exactly what I need. I'll just relax and regroup and come out in better condition than I am now. Which really was adorably optimistic. To be sure, the massage started out great. And it really would have been perfect. But then my goddamn body and brain had to go and betray me. I was face down, my forehead pressed into that donut thing, and blissfully enjoying the comfort of heated blankets, lavender aromatherapy oil, and a nice Swedish lady massaging the back of my leg. She was doing her best to avoid my ass wound, and she worked her way down my calf into my foot. And as she did, I felt something brimming. This being a female-only spa, they really go out of their way to make you feel as secure and safe as possible. Because you really are in something of a vulnerable position, being naked and at the whim of a stranger's fingers. There's an implied trust. But it goes both ways between the client and the massage therapist, and you both genuinely believe that you won't do anything to disturb the environment. Then, of course, there's me. As this lovely lady is working over my leg, my big toe begins to twitch. Now, just saying those words, I get it, really doesn't convey just how alarming this was to me. That twitch that I was experiencing is my first warning sign that I'm about to get a foot cramp. And this isn't just a regular foot cramp. My foot cramps are vicious. It will feel as though my big toe is trying to secede from the union of my foot in the most violent way possible. Now sometimes, if the moon is properly aligned with the booze in my bottle, I can occasionally work the cramp out before it consumes my body. Mostly, though, I'm fucked. Here's a little secret about me. I'm sure y'all already know that I will set fire to your face if I feel you have wronged me or my family in some way. But when it comes to speaking up during a perfectly lovely situation where my discomfort is truly my own idiotic problem, I'll just keep my mouth shut. You know, it's regular, ordinary situations. Like if the water in the shampoo bowl at the salon is too hot, or if it's drafty at a restaurant, I'm not going to bother anyone with my whines. I'll just suck it up. And that was my rationale there on the massage table as I feel my toe begin to spontaneously spasm. I didn't want to make a big deal out of it. So I take a few deep breaths, and I try to gently flex my foot and work the cramp out with the limited powers of my mind. I'm thinking, please, please, for the love of all the bourbon in Kentucky, just relax. And for a minute, I think I have it under control. But it was all a ruse. All I succeeded in doing is angering the demon that took control of my foot. Because the next thing you know, I am gripped by a ruthless contraction rivaled only by the spider walk scene in The Exorcist. I jerk my leg back in an involuntary curl, and as I do, I clock the massage chick in the jaw with my foot. And because my foot is still relentlessly seizing, I quickly flip over, and then I hop off the table to try and flex the cramp out with the weight of my body. The massage chick is rubbing her face and staring as I raise and lower myself on the ball of my foot like a spastic, naked ballerina. Her look said it all. My massage was officially over. She left me alone to get dressed. My humiliation is mingling with the soft scent of lavender. And as I sit there with my bandaged ass and half-rubbed body, I have to wonder, am I ever going to get this whole adulting thing right? Sure, some days I'm the person I would like to be, but others, like that day, I feel like the off-key fiddle that can't quite keep time with the rest of the song. I left the massage girl an exceptionally generous tip with the hope that I won't be banned from the spa for life. Not that it really matters. I don't think I'm going to be able to show my face, or otherwise, there for quite some time. Until then, there's bourbon. So I'm going to raise up my glass right now and drink to learning how to carry your own goddamn melody. Cheers, y'all. Now, if there is anything that could drive me to drink, it would be seeing an ex-boyfriend attempting to reconnect with me on social media. I know that I have said this countless times, but for the life of me, I do not understand the need to use social media as your own personal life reunion. Seriously, people, it is okay for a relationship to end. And if there was ever a relationship that really needed to end, it would have been this one. Not that I knew it at the time, because holy crap, was I ever dumbhead over stupid stiletto heels for this guy. He was, not surprisingly, a rock star. But unlike a lot of the rock and rollers that I saw, with this guy, I had an actual relationship that extended beyond the confines of a tour bus. For the purposes of this story, I'll call him the Ringleader. It really is a fitting name for the guy because no matter where he was, a circus always followed. And in a tragically creepy sort of way, I suppose I was one of the original members of the Ringleader circus because I met him when I was 15. His band had just hit the sticky pages of Metal Edge magazine, and I was smitten from the start. So, I did what any industrious groupie of a writer would do. I insisted my dad haul me off to the record store where his band was doing an album signing. And when there, I so thoroughly charmed the ringleader that I was invited onto the tour bus to interview him. My dad, disguised as my photographer, joined us. And I'll tell y'all, that interview became one of my very first published pieces. Of course, when my dad wasn't looking, the ringleader flirted wildly with me. I was just young enough to take his flirting as a compliment. And who knows, maybe it was. I can say that our mutual attraction kept us in very loose contact for the next 7 or 8 years. That was how long it took me to become legal, and ultimately a Los Angeles resident. And on one sunny day in Southern California, the ringleader and I picked up where we left off on that tour bus. I had called him on a very lonely whim, not really expecting his number to work. My phone book back then was the groupie's equivalent of a little black book, and consisted of scratches and sticky notes, and my own little deranged shorthand ranking system. A smiley face indicated a friend with benefits. A heart was for current lovers. And then there was the exclamation point. This was reserved for the ones who had potential. And that was the ringleader. Not only did his phone number work, but he answered the phone himself. It had been at least a year since we'd spoken, and even more since we'd seen each other. But beyond all the catching up and the where have you beens, there was no denying that we had an undercurrent of carnal inclination. We made dinner plans for that very night. That in itself was something new for me. The rock guys never wanted to go to dinner. They never wanted to do anything that could be misconstrued as even remotely relationship-y. So if I wanted something other than a bag of takeout bought with the last dredge of some guitar player's per diem, I'd have to go trolling for an IT guy. And believe me, I wasn't above it. But the ringleader was different. And not only was he going to take me out to dinner, he was going to pick me up himself too. So he arrives in my pathetic little dingbat apartment wearing a wife-beater tank top and jeans with snakeskin boots. Which was fine, because I was wearing a cropped Playboy t-shirt and leather pants with stilettos. We may not have been the classiest pair at the sushi restaurant he took me to, but it didn't matter. I liked him. To me, it was the most glorious origin story a couple could have. Me, the rock writer, and him, the rock star. And it formed the basis of my rationale for why we were made for each other. I'd like to be able to say that it was overzealous lust that clouded my judgment, but the truth is, I was just desperate for some semblance of a lasting relationship. I mean, everything in my life was transient. From my jobs to my friends to my living situation. The ringleader's regular interest and affection was in direct contrast to the other people I was seeing. For them, their only form of consideration came in supplying their own condoms. So the ringleader was the closest I had come to an actual boyfriend in a long time. And even if it was mostly an illusion, it was just enough for me to have hope for more. Even so, I didn't stop seeing other guys and girls. I may have been hopelessly infatuated with the ringleader, but I was also a realist. I knew he had other girls, and it wasn't long before they knew about me. The ringleader's groupie circus consisted of girls that he was currently sleeping with, girls he had previously slept with, and the girls who desperately wanted to sleep with him. And all of them hated me. I know this because several of them had emailed me to virtually pee circles around their musician territory. At first, I couldn't figure out how they found me. But then I stumbled across their secret groupie lair, an online message board. It was the equivalent of the dark web at the time. There were 3 or 4 popular boards where all of the groupies of the world would sharpen their claws and dish dirt on everything from cock size to STDs. My email address had been shared in a few subthreads, along with some choice criticisms about my clothing and figure and general existence. It was the first time I had ever been so thoroughly and publicly roasted, and it was a little unnerving. I would have been okay with it had it been contained to the dark recesses of the internet. But y'all, there is no containing groupies. They always find a way. They found me one Tuesday evening when the ringleader and I were hanging out with the illustrious Ricky Rackman at his cat house club in Hollywood. I always kind of liked hanging out at the cat house. It sure beat the hell out of the whiskey, which was always cramped and too close to sketchy for me to ever really have fun. But the cat house reminded me a little bit of the inside of a stretch limo, with all of its leather banquette seating and red-tinted ambiance. And although, I'm a whiskey gal, there I drank vodka cranberries and the occasional kamikaze shot. Not because I especially liked them, but because they seemed to fit the atmosphere. It was a little girly, a little decadent, and most definitely glam. So I was in the cat house bathroom that night, applying lipstick, when I caught sight of a girl in the mirror behind me. She wasn't looking at herself. She was looking at me, and I immediately recognized her. She was Little Susie 101. At least, that was her screen name on the groupie boards. She wasn't exactly the highest-ranking groupie in their dirty little hierarchy. Not that it mattered. Her exploits from band to band had finally settled on one guy, the ringleader. And it was clear she was there to claim her prize. Susie the groupie gives me a half-smile as I turn to face her. She takes a step closer to me, deliberately wedging me between the sink and the wall. I can feel my face flush and little pools of panic sweat collecting behind my knees as she continues to stare me down. I was tempted to call out for help. But girl fights at the cat house? They're nothing new. The only thing the bouncer would do is toss us both out onto the street. And there, little Susie would have more freedom to knife me. So I waited. Her intimidation dance lasts another 30 seconds when she breaks the silence with a single statement. You know you're not special. Her raspy voice is ripe with implication. She puts her face directly in front of mine, and I brace myself for whatever she's going to deliver next. But she just leans over and kisses my cheek with her full red lips. Think about it, she says. Which, quite honestly, freaked me out more than if she'd just gone ahead and jammed a set of tweezers in my nose. Little Susie tosses her long blonde hair over her shoulder and leaves me there against the bathroom wall, breathless and very shaken. I collect myself as best I can and walk back to the booth, just as little Susie is removing her lips from the ringleader's ear. We lock eyes for a minute, and she walks away. The ringleader seems amused as I sit down. What was that all about, I ask him. And wow, did he ever have an answer. He says, Oh, she was just telling me how pretty she thinks you are. Sure she was. She was telling him just how pretty I would look as her fucking doormat. So I look at him and I say, Did you know she was going to be here? Because if he did, why would he put me in a situation like that? The ringleader just shrugs his shoulders and resumes talking to Ricky. It occurs to me then that, of course, he knew she was going to be there. Hell, he probably pointed me out to her with the hope that maybe we'd hit it off. Fucking musician. Little Susie was right, though. Despite all of the dinners and the phone calls and random days where he and I would just hang out and not have sex, I know now that on the ringleader's list of priorities, I fell somewhere above cleaning his pool, but below walking his dog. And then there was his band. Even when they weren't rehearsing, touring, recording, or writing material, the band was still the single most important thing in the ringleader's life. And I found this out the hard way when I asked the ringleader to drive me home from the hospital where I'd been having minor foot surgery. I had hesitated asking for his help at all. I mean, even in my ridiculously romantic state, I knew that this would push the boundaries of our so-called relationship. But I also knew that I wouldn't be able to drive. My friends were all working, and cab rides weren't exactly in my limited budget. That left me with the ringleader. And to his credit, he was more than willing to help. He got me to the hospital at 8 a.m. without any issue, and he assured me that he would be there to get me at noon. But by 12:45, no sight of him. So I'm sitting there in the lobby, and I am watching the second hand on the clock tick off the remaining bubbles of pain medicine circulating in my blood. I knew it wasn't going to be long. The edges of pain in my foot were just starting to sharpen as I am waiting for the ringleader, and I'm thinking, where the fuck is he? Well, he finally pulled up at 1:15 and apologizes for being late as he helps me into his car. And it is there that I see the reason for his delay. A cardboard box in the back seat full of band flyers. Apparently, there was a line at Kinko's. Oh, y'all, I hate to admit it, but I continued to date the ringleader for more than a year. Despite everything, I still liked the guy. And that was the problem. Every time I would get to the point where I'd had enough of the ringleader, he would go and do something so unexpected and thoughtful, he'd make me like him again. Fucking musician. Ultimately, though, obviously, the relationship came to an end. But it didn't go out in sweeping carnage. There were no drunken, blazing rages. It ended quietly when I moved back home to Chicago. That last day in my apartment there in Studio City broke a small piece of my soul. No matter how often I had looked at the calendar the month before and seen that date marked in red, it didn't prepare me for the reality of watching all of my belongings be carted away in a moving truck destined for Illinois. My dad had flown in from Chicago to help with the move. He looked out of place there in my living room as he directed the movers and tagged boxes. His presence just made my destination all the more vivid. A few friends dropped by that afternoon, some picking up furniture or computer gear that they had loaned me, and others were just looking for a last goodbye. But there was only one person that I was waiting for, the ringleader. When I had first told him that I was going to be moving back to Chicago, he seemed sad, genuinely sad. And he did make a few last-ditch attempts to help me find a job. But he never offered me the one thing that could have kept me there in Los Angeles a little while longer. And that would have been key to his house. Oh, I had tentatively broached the idea of setting up temporary camp in his spare bedroom, and the look of utter terror that clouded his eyes, well, I knew. Instead, he offered to give my dad and I a ride to our hotel by the airport on my last night in town. Well, it certainly wasn't ideal, but at least it would give me a chance to say goodbye. By late afternoon, my apartment was completely empty. I had spoken to the ringleader 3 times that day, and each time he assured me that he'd be there to pick me and my dad up. So my dad and I waited in that empty apartment. No food, no TV, no internet, just us on the floor and my cat in a bag. For 5 fucking hours. That is how long it took for the ringleader to get his shit together and pick us up. And do you want to know why he was late? What it was that kept him so occupied he couldn't get away? Well, it wasn't a band emergency, and it wasn't car trouble. Y'all, he was watching a football game. Fucking ringleader. Well, that is definitely enough out of me. If you want to catch up on any of the back episodes of the Unwritable Rant podcast, just head on over to theunwritablerant.com. You'll also find all of the ways that you can connect with me on social media, and unlike the ringleader, I would love to hear from y'all. So definitely hit me up if you want some bourbon suggestions or if you have a bourbon you want me to try. I hope you all have a great week. I'll be back next Sunday to share some more bourbon-soaked stories with y'all. Cheers.
Go to theunwritablерant.com and sign up to get early access to interviews and new videos. You can hear new episodes of The Unwritable Rant on radiovegas.rocks every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern and on IPMNation.com on Saturdays and Sundays at 6 p.m. Eastern, and hear best of episodes every weekday at 3 p.m. Eastern. And don't forget to connect with Juliette on Twitter at Morning Neurosis.
Girl, you as pretty as a Sunday morning, standing on the corner at Carondelet. What you say we make our way up to Bourbon, couple hurricanes and a hand grenade, and get blown away. Let the chips fall where they may. If it's all the same, what you say, bon ton, hey, pretty mama, I can smell the gumbo. Sweetest taste of honeysuckle on my lips. Good God Almighty, I can hear the trombone. Every heart ought to beat to a rhythm like this. Come a little closer, honey, let me hold you. Nothing tastes better than a bourbon kiss. You can be the flower on my magnolia. Every heart ought to beat to a rhythm like this.